Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this video is going to be how to use the vector database program. It's here on the GitHub webpage here. It's named VectorDB plugin for LM Studio, but just full disclosure, it's not created with LM Studio or for LM Studio, the company. It's just that's what it was originally named, but there's no formal affiliation. But it does have functionalities that interact with LM Studio. So basically what you first want to do is you go to the GitHub page and you want to make sure you have these things here installed first. It's under the requirements. And then if you go to the releases, and then you can go down here to source code and download it right here. Once you do that, you'll get the zip file and you'll open the zip file, and then you'll want to extract this to somewhere on your computer. And you can see somewhere in here, if you go one level down, there's the source folder. So you want to go into this folder once you extract it, and you'll see all these files here. So this is where we'll start. Once you download it and unzip it and you go into this source folder, you want to create a command prompt within the folder. So I'll go over to here because I have all the files already. I'll just create a command prompt. But you can also do the create it by going up here and typing CMD right here, and it'll open it. But I've already created one. Then you just follow the instructions on the website here. So you go down to Windows, and Linux and Apple is here as well, but only the older versions of the program are supported because at a certain point it became too difficult to try and create it for platforms that I actually don't have. So you can use the older version with Linux or Apple, but the new one will always be Windows for now. So the first thing you want to do is create a virtual environment. Copy that, go to the command prompt, paste it. Once that's done, you'll see that command prompt come back. Then you'll do activate the virtual environment. And then there's a script here that actually sets everything up for you. So again, we're copying and pasting these commands from the GitHub webpage. It'll ask you a series of questions. It'll run some checks to make sure you have the correct versions of things installed. I'm just going to click through them all here. But again, all these things are in the GitHub here where it shows you their requirements. Now, there have been some issues that I've heard with the new version not working just with the CPU. In other words, some parts of it may require a GPU. Again, this is a work in progress, but it's come a long way since it first started, and there have been some major recent changes that have made it more robust. But it's just installing right here. You can see it, and it's downloading the necessary things for you, all the different libraries. So depending on your system, this could, depends how long it'll take. Mine's pretty fast, so then once it's done installing, it'll give you the command prompt again. And there's instructions on the GitHub here as well about how to use the program. They're pretty detailed. It shows you all the different things you can do with it. It shows you the different models, and it shows you step by step how to use it. There's also an instruction manual within the program itself that has tips on how to use the program and explanations about different settings and stuff. Okay, so it's done. And what you need to do is you need to type Python GUI.py. That's the name of the entry point of the program. That's the script that kicks off everything. So this is the interface. You have several tabs. You have the settings tab, the user guide, which I mentioned has a bunch of different tabs, and you can click to see all the different settings. And I highly recommend that you read this as well as the GitHub page at least once. And sometimes there's changes in between versions, slight changes, but usually I'll mention those in the release section if there's a change you really need to know about. So we have user guide, models tab, and these are all the different vector models, where these are what actually create the vectors that are put into the database. There is a tools tab, and this lets you transcribe an audio file to put into the database. And then this is just to test processing an image. And if you go down to settings, you can see right here that there's different image models you can use, or vision models is what they're called, to process images. And so again, I recommend you read the user manual about what the strengths and weaknesses are, the requirements. But what the Tools tab does is it allows you to choose one image and then process it. Excuse me. Process one image to see how long one image takes before you, for example, process 500 images. Because once you start processing, it's sort of you don't want to stop midstream. So then there's a Create Database tab. This is where you'll choose the files, the model, and the button to create the database. And this is where your databases will show up. So you can see I have a bunch of books in one database here. And this is the query. So we'll go through these fairly quickly. The best thing is to just play around yourself. So back to the Models tab. You have to click one of these radio buttons on the side here, and then you click Download the Model, and it'll let you download the model. So for example, I will close this out to show you how this works. Go to my folder I know that has all these models. I'll delete one of them. I'll go back to the command prompts, start the program again. Then you go to models, and it'll show you here that like this one's not downloaded anymore. It says no because it automatically checks. So you click here to download it and click download the model. Then your command prompt will start the download process. And you'll notice, I don't know if you noticed, but the folder is automatically created and the model's put in there. And you have to wait until it's done downloading those. Some of these models are fairly big, so it'll actually say ready to use when it's done downloading. So right here it says downloaded and ready to use. So you go to the Create Database. This is the main functionality here. Then you just choose some files. So there's a bunch of files over here that I just use as like a test. So we'll just do a text file. And it populates here. Now you can right click and delete it if you want. It has not been entered in the database yet. But these are just basically files that are queued to be put in the database. I'll just go ahead and do some more files, and you can click this as many times as you want, which is useful because sometimes your files are in different locations. You can't select them all in one attempt. So I'll select some images here, click OK, and then we choose the model, which is the vector model. So you have to read about the different kinds of models. They have strengths and weaknesses, but all MPNet base v2 is the best model, I think, for your buck and for the processing requirements of it. So select that, and then all you have to do is click, well, actually, you have to name the database. So we'll do test. Right here, you just type it in. You don't hit enter or anything. And then you click create the database. But before we do that, in the settings tab, there are some things here you can change. So the chunk size, chunk overlap, and I'm not going to go into all of that. You have to read about it. I've spent a lot of time making really good instructions. But you can set these here. You want to set them before you create the database. Then you always click update settings. So those have already been set. So you go to create database and you create the database. It gives you a little warning here saying don't stop midstream. Click OK. And it should is processing the images. So there you go, just process all the images. Then it's creating the database with the images and the text file here. So there's a multi-step process where it processes images, processes the transcripts you can do, you can make, and that's it. It's done. So if we want to query the database, we go to here and we select test, and this is a cool feature. You click record question, so I'll just do it real quick. What is the deadline to hold a preliminary protective hearing in a dependency case? There you go. It's populated already. Or you can type it in this box as well. And then I'm going to click chunks only. And what that does is it will show you in here the actual chunks that were put in the database. And then I can show you how to connect to LM Studio after that. But click chunks only. And that's good for also seeing, whether you're giving the right chunk size or whatnot. Click submit question. It's that fast. So here it is, the very first result, context number 1, from this file, even gives you the file name. And this is the chunk that it was the most relevant, and it gives the direct answer. And there's other chunks as well, and you can change, if you go to the settings tab, you can actually change the number of contexts, is what they're referred to. And it's in the database query section here. So right now it's set to 8. I can change it to like 2. Remember, update settings always. And I can run the same query again. And there's only 2 results. 2 right here. I could set it to 25, something ridiculous. Query the database, submit. It's 25 now. So it takes a while to scroll through all these. Now, if you get this is important to note, is that you want to experiment with how you prompt this. Most of the time, these models are of a high quality. They've come a long way to where the prompt doesn't matter as much as it used to, but play around with the question, and I talk about this a little bit in the user guide. Phrase it a different way, maybe you'll get the results you need. But after you play with it for a little bit, it's pretty easy. Usually you'll get the exact answer you want in the top 2 or 3 or 4 results. So there's really no need to set this to 25. So we'll set it back down to 5. Update settings. And again, these other settings here, you can read about, filter by keyword. You can search for images only, documents only, audio only, etc. So going back to the query database, so if you want to connect to LM Studio, you have to start it up. This is a brand new version of LM Studio. I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't tested it at all yet. It takes a while to load. Okay. So on this side here, this is the server, local server tab, and this is all you'll use with my program. Now I encourage you to use LM Studio proper, which is, the main chat area here and all the other features and stuff. But the server, you want to make sure that you have these turned to, well, first of all, the main thing you need to think about is whether you want prompt formatting on or off. If it's on, LM Studio will handle the prompt format. If it's off, then my program will provide it. And if you go to the settings tab, then you have all these different settings here you can use. So I have the different prompts for the models that I think are the best. And really, I think it just simplifies things to use it in my program, because in LM Studio, which is great, I mean, there's hundreds of models, thousands of models now. And if you want to simplify things, just kind of look here and say, okay, these models he's tested, they're good for retrieval augmented generation, which is what this basic program is. And I've tested all these, so if we just choose something like Neural Chat Solar, and then you go to the models here that I've already downloaded, And I could find it. I don't know where it went. Solar, there it is. Okay. So I have the Q8 size, which is pretty big. And you'll learn about all these quants if you have to research a little bit about the models. Um, and then you'll click Start Server, and then you go to the Query Database tab again. Then you want to uncheck this chunks only box because we're not getting the chunks anymore. We're actually sending data to the server. Then you click Submit Question. There you go. That fast. So that's the core functionality. Now there's some cool features I added. You can copy it, of course, but you can also speak the response using text to speech. And I will first show you whisper speech. You go to the settings tab, you can choose one of two options. Whisper speech, which is a new, really good text to speech backend, and then there's Bark, which you may have heard about. It's been around longer. But I'll use whisper speech for now, and you click speak response, and you'll see it processing the response.
In Georgia, for a dependency case, the preliminary protected hearing must occur no later than 72 hours after the child is placed in foster care. If the 72-hour time frame expires on a weekend or legal holiday, the hearing shall be held on the next day, which is not a weekend or legal holiday. S.
So you see, obviously it can't speak these. It tries this tail end here, but I'll show you Bark as well. And Bark has a few more settings, and I just haven't got around to giving additional settings for whisper speech. But we'll use, I don't know, small model, float 32, quant. You can read about these in the settings, of course. There's a bunch of speaker voices for Bark as well. And then we'll just do speak response again.
In Georgia, for a dependency case, the preliminary protective hearing must occur no later than 72 hours after the child is placed in foster care. If the 72-hour time frame expires on a weekend or legal holiday, the hearing shall be held on the next day, which is not a weekend or legal holiday. It's the crap. And
So again,
I mean,
these
$2,000. I would say, what is the details?
these TTS, text to speech models, really struggle with things that aren't actual words, like this stuff here, because they're not trained on that. So just be aware of that, and the different embedding models, or excuse me, the different large language models you select, like an LM Studio or whatnot. Some are more prone to giving these things here, like they think they're doing something good by providing citations, or not even a true citation, like a half-ass citation, basically. And it just causes the text-to-speech to garble it. But some models don't do that at all. They just give you an answer, and it's all pure English or whatever. So um, moving on, the Tools tab is really useful. You can select an audio file, and so we'll select another test file, a big one here. This one is like a 3-hour interview with Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO or something. Um, but anyways, you choose the model size. There's a bunch of them here. You can read about in the user guide. These are all Whisper based, but the backend that this uses is called Whisper ST2, I believe. But it is like the fastest one out there currently. It harnesses C translate to do this in a batch fashion, so it's really, really fast. So let's just pick, I don't know, a base float 32 size, and we'll crank up the speed to something pretty high, and then click transcribe. And then you can see it's starting to transcribe here. And these are the batches, I think, 0 to 100. I'm not sure how it divides it up, but it gives you a percentile basically, and that's it, it's done. You can see down here the metrics of your system working, and it tells you when it's done here. Then if you go to the database tab, you can see it's been put in the database. So, well, not put in the database, put in the queue to be put in the database. So, you add images, you can add documents, transcribe a file, they all go into this user interface here, and then you create the database and it adds all of those different things. Or you can just create a database with all audio or all pictures or whatever you want, however you want to organize it. And if you double click it,
we have been a misunderstood and badly mocked org for a long time. Like when we started,
this was a long file.
The energy required,
2 hours, 25 minutes. So that was extremely fast if you know anything about this transcription technology. But again, the same thing, you would name the database. We'll do audio. We'll use the same model, so we don't need to choose it again. And then we'll create the database. It's done already. It's that fast. That's how fast all MPNet base v2 is, and it's still good. Again, we'll go here and ask a question. What does the speaker say about the future of artificial intelligence? And I want to get some more chunks, so let's do 10 chunks this time. First, I want to see the chunks. Submit question. Oops. I didn't select the database. Yeah, I had it on the old one, and it didn't return anything because there's nothing in that that's relevant. So we'll go to the audio database. Select that. Submit question. There it is, that quick. It gives you context 1, 2, 3, whatever. Then, of course, we can start up LM Studio, go to Solar, which is one of my favorite models. I want to make sure we have this prefix set. Yes, it's set. Okay, make sure this is started, the server started. Okay, click Submit Question. Did I click it? Oh, whoops, I have to, oh yeah. Uncheck chunks only. Okay. So that's a pretty thorough answer. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. He summarizes, it summarizes everything. So, if you choose a lower quality model, you're going to get a different response. So if I choose something like Zephyr, which is a 3 billion parameter model, I go to settings, change the prompt format to Zephyr, update the settings, click the same query button. That's it. So, smaller models tend to give more succinct answers. Sometimes you want that. Sometimes you do not want a rambling answer. So, the size of the model you choose makes a difference, as well as how you structure your question, if you leave it open-ended or whatnot. And that's it. I hope you enjoy the program. Feel free to put in any issues or feedback on the GitHub page. There's a lot here, a lot of nuances, but you should definitely read the user guide and the GitHub instructions as well. And yeah, feel free to hit me up. I'm on the LM Studio server, or on the GitHub. You can reach me on there as well by sending a message. Thank you very much.